Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so very much, fellow citizens. How was yesterday? How is everybody now? Post yesterday. Yes, the do's and the don'ts. Let's go. Let's talk health now.
Yeah, welcome, doctor. So what are we looking at today?
I think we should look at. I saw a program. I'm not going to mention the station, but I saw a program and they were talking about cerebral palsy. And in fact, they did a documentary on it. And then after that, they interviewed someone. And during the course of the interview, I realized that the person had no clue about what caused cerebral palsy, what are the signs of cerebral palsy, and all that. And also I said, let me just try and see whether we can just fill up that lacune so that that can go in together. Now, cerebral palsy is actually defined as what they call it, an abnormality of posture and walking. That's why the palsy is there. Cerebral because it's caused by the brain, and it's usually caused by a damage, a toxin, an insult to a growing brain. So usually it happens in utero around the time that birth occurs, and some days after or immediately after birth. Those are the only times where the baby's brain is developing, and that's the time that the baby may suffer injury to the brain. Now, if a baby has cerebral palsy, this might have been the likely causes. In utero, if you drink alcohol, you might have what they call a fetal alcohol syndrome, which can affect the child's brain, will not grow well, and will deplete some of the chemicals or some of the vitamins or some of the multivitamins that you need in the growth of the brain of the child, and then child comes out abnormal. If you're exposed to chemicals, radiation, and if you take drugs that you're not supposed to take, usually that's what usually happens. You tend to have arrest in the development of brain. And the unfortunate part is that if there's an arrest in the brain development of a child, usually the arrest stops that development at that point. And so the baby's mental age, or we call it cerebral age, does not develop beyond that point. It doesn't matter that the baby is growing. Baby is just a child. So that's why you see some of those children at 20, they cannot be left alone. They cannot initiate conversation. They cannot do anything. They are totally dependent on a carer. It's most likely they might have had an injury to their brain when they were much, much, much younger, and the brain has stopped growing. And though they will keep growing, but the brain will not grow again.
So could it also happen during pregnancy for the...
Yeah, that's the pregnancy part now.
Oh, okay.
So when you are pregnant, which is one of the reasons why we keep emphasizing that a pregnant woman has no business at home not going for antenatal. If you are pregnant, please go for antenatal. Let them see you. Let them say there is no problem. It's better you go 5 times and say there is no problem than to not go and have one problem somewhere that could have been noticed. Then there might be a problem. So please, most of the pregnant women, and avoid taking herbal concoction, because you really do not know what is the effect. If something has not been studied, we have not studied it, we will not make policies on it. I am sure that somewhere in Nigeria, some people can close their eyes and cross the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road and they will not have an accident. I am sure. I am pretty sure of that. But that's not going to be the policy of crossing the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road. We are going to make a proper policy, not because some people can do it
and close their eyes.
And close their eyes. Yes, we are going to, assume that we are going to make a proper policy. So which is why we make policies like this for health. Yeah, I know that some people will be at home. We have had reports. I've read a report about a lady in the local area in Brazil who operated herself, delivered her baby herself, and then got to the hospital after the delivery. Baby and mother, fine. She operated herself. You know what it takes for a woman to take a knife, a kitchen knife, and butcher herself and remove the baby. because she felt that the baby is not going to come out normal. And there is no time, there is no way they can get to the hospital. So she did it. Now, because somebody has done it somewhere,
does not mean it will be the
do we then make it
practice.
do we then make it a policy to say, okay, you know what? I mean, there is no point. I mean, I heard that there was a guy who told some of his guys that he would drive from Lagos to Ilorin, and his tank is empty, and the petrol in his tank will be empty, and the car will keep moving. Then they will get to Ilorin, and that does not mean that everybody here will not fuel their car, even with this 600 naira per liter situation. You will still fuel the car if you are going to go to Ilorin, or you are going to take public transport, but you will not take. So what we are saying is that the policy exists for the majority. There are 1 or 2 or 3 cases that may defy the policy, that may make it seem as if, oh, this one did it. Don't put yourself in the position of that one that did it. It doesn't work that way. Follow the policy. That's for pregnant women. At birth, and this is the one that occurs, that is most preventable. You see, the pregnancy own, you avoid all the things that you're supposed to avoid. You go to clinic when you're supposed to go to clinic. You should be fine. At birth, do not give birth where there is nobody to resuscitate the baby. The baby has less than 4 minutes once they cut the umbilical cord. Less than 4 minutes to either cry or suffer irreversible brain damage. So, in the first 4 minutes of life, it is most critical that people that are there have what it takes to be able to
revive the baby.
So if the baby comes out and is not crying, and this happens for women who come to the hospital with predictions. Some women have been told, I don't know who told them, that they will deliver like the Hebrew women of yore. You know, they will just go in and everything will just come out
smoothly.
Yes, and they claim that, and I understand it is your right to claim it. However, to make it work, please go to the hospital first, and then let it go smoothly in the hospital. Sometimes it doesn't go smoothly. You start to labor for a long time. By the time you finally give birth to the baby is almost dead. Is floppy. He can't generate enough energy to breathe. The mother herself is almost floppy, and so in between all that, nobody will remember to check the baby. And then even if they check the baby, what they will do is to continue to beat the baby. There will be no active measures of resuscitating the baby to be sure that we're getting enough. There's no even machine to measure the blood glucose of the baby to know whether the baby is getting enough glucose or not. At the end of the day, the first 4 minutes will pass. Baby will not have oxygen in the brain. Brain will arrest immediately. The brain will just switch off. And once it switches off, the body will continue to grow without the brain. Sometimes it doesn't happen at birth. The women, they come to hospital, they give birth, they go back to their homes. The doctor says, Madam, when you get home, don't put camphor in the cloth of the baby. The granny comes from the village. She brings a lot of camphor. She said this camphor is going to help to remove all the insect, all the ants, cockroaches. So they put a lot of camphor. The baby puts the cloth on with the camphor residues inside it. It reacts. Then something happens. The baby will begin to have yellow eyes. Now, baby has yellow eye. Go to the hospital. Go to the hospital. No, they won't go to the hospital. Then there's this herb. Then they will use it. When the baby has yellow eyes, what it means is that the liver has a problem. The growing liver is not the same as an adult liver. Growing liver is easily affected by toxins. It is not able to handle the toxins in the blood effectively. So, the woman then add herbs to the issue. These herbs will be conjugated by the liver. The liver is already overloaded. And then the limit of elasticity will be breached. Liver will go down. The eye will be yellow. Face yellow. Hand yellow. Leg yellow. What it tells us is that the brain itself is yellow. So, from that moment on, baby may suffer irreversible brain damage as a result of the jaundice.
Okay.
Sometimes we tell the pregnant women, when you go home, please use only methylated spirit to treat the stump of the cord. Only methylated spirit. Do not use hot water and
Lantern.
Do not use lantern. Do not use cow urine. Do not use piss of human. Do not use milk. Do not use honey.
Use milk.
Do not.
The one I'm familiar with is the lantern.
They will use
put the
lantern.
clothes.
There is cow urine.
Yes.
There is human urine. There is they put. Some people can put honey. Some people can. I've had somebody who made a dab of engine oil to kind of. People do a lot of things that people do. Now you do that. 2, 3, 4 days later, baby starts to feel very hot. Then
Infection
has entered. You're supposed to bring the baby to the hospital. You are supposed to bring the baby to the hospital. That's the paramount thing. That's what you must do. If you do not, you are not done yourself and the baby any favor. Usually that's what happens. And so you do that. You don't bring the baby to the hospital. Then by the time you come to the hospital, it is over. Yoruba say that cloth did not reach Omoye on time. Omoye has entered the market naked. Yoruba people can translate. So, and that has happened. Sometimes it could just be the normal infection that will happen. Baby has fever. In fact, if a baby has fever, if you check your baby, it's fever. That means the body is hot.
Yes.
The baby is not taking breast milk. The baby is crying in a way and manner that even when the mother holds the baby is not assuaged and baby continues to cry. That is the primary sign of irritability. If the baby is breathing too rapidly, and you look at the baby and you can see that all the abdomen, all the chest, everything is being used to breathe, the baby just all these are very dangerous signs. Come to the hospital first. Do not go to where they will do anything else. Come to the hospital first. In fact, not just any hospital. Go to either Oni and Sons Pediatric Hospital. That's the highest state pediatric center in New York. Or go to UCH. That's a federal. That's as high as it gets. Go to, if it happens on Sunday evening, go to the emergency room. They will attend to you in the emergency room of the children. Pediatric emergency room. They call it OT2 in UCH. It was donated by the Otumba
Shibomi Balogun.
Yeah,
The late,
recent demise. Shibomi Balogun. He was the one that donated and renovated and it's been a while that he has done that. But I mean, the man had been a major pillar for pediatric support, not only in Ibadan, but I think across the western
part of the country.
Yes, I mean, we can imagine the Jebu, the one. There's another one in Ileshan right there, where that's again another hospital, and they major a lot of pediatrics also there. So the man had put his own. So those hospitals are there. So please avail yourselves the opportunity. Now, what do we see? Okay, I don't know. Well, maybe the fever has happened. Maybe the yellowness of the eyes had happened. Maybe the child had refused to cry. So those of you who are there, who don't know, you are looking at your baby. If you pick your baby up, anytime after 3 months, if you pick your baby up, let's say anytime after 4 months, if you pick your baby up after 4 months, the neck of your baby must not go to the back. The baby must be able to bring the neck forward by himself or herself. If the neck keeps going to the back, that means that the baby is not controlling that neck. And neck control is one of the first things that must happen in what we call the developmental milestone when a baby growing up. So, baby must bring the neck back. If the baby's neck is not coming back, So that sometimes around 6 months, 7 months, if you want to carry the baby, you have to carry the baby with 2 hands. They will say, so you put one hand by the neck, then you put one hand by the waist side, and then you lift the baby up because the baby's neck is not controlled. There is a problem that needs to be dealt with. Come to the hospital. Baby is usually supposed to do what they call social smile with the mother. By the 6th week to 2nd month, baby is supposed to identify the mother. So anytime the baby sees the mother, baby will smile. That's why we say if your baby is crying and the mother comes and picks the baby up and the baby continues to cry,
there's a problem.
There's a problem. Babies do not cry when their mother has picked them up because they instinctively know that there's a solution to whatever the problem is. So they will stop crying first.
And I'm safe here.
I'm safe here. That's the first safety zone for the baby. So if your baby does not identify you as a safety zone, then there's a problem. Number 2, after the social smile, the baby's neck has to be controlled. That will happen a month after. So between 3rd month, 4th month. By the 6th month, all babies, between 6 and 7 months, all babies should be able to sit by themselves. So baby will assume sitting position. So even if you put the baby down prone, the baby will sit up by itself. Baby will be able to, with sitting down, play with toys, throw big toys. That's what they will do. Baby will be able to start to attempt to crawl. That's what they start to do from 7 months on. By their 9th month, they are attempting to stand with tables, with walls. They are attempting to do that. By their 1st year and above, they should be able to walk. So they will be walking. Some might walk steady. Some might actually be running. Some might be unsteady. They just doing it
staggering.
But they will begin to attempt to do that. So if you have a baby that all these things that I have mentioned are not present at the age that I have mentioned them,
there's a problem.
We need to see you at the hospital. You need to see the pediatricians at the hospital. Now, let me quickly say that there are all these things I'm saying, there are variants. It's not as if every baby must. In fact, research has told us that if you have a baby in a community, if you are in a let's say resource constrained community where babies are generally coming together, they run around together. If you have a baby in that kind of community, the chances are that the baby will walk faster before 1 year. Baby will do everything faster. Why? Because babies play with babies and they imitate the ones that they see in front. So really, they will inspire themselves to walk, to run, to do all those things. The same science, the same studies have shown that if you have babies in an enclosed or resource surplus environment where people do not mix with people. I'm talking about places like Bodija, where
mind your business
kind of lifestyle. The old Bodija, the new Bodija, the Onireke, all the Samondas, all those areas, all those now highbrow areas where people just drive into their gates, they own that generator, and that's all there is to it about life. There is no need. Your neighbor might not have. In some areas, if you've not eaten, somebody is going to know that they're going to look for you there. Somebody's going to come and knock your door. That's part of our culture, which we have. I'm not sure. I don't want to say irrevocably lost, but it's a culture that is going down, dwindling rapidly. So if you are in those kind of areas and you have a kid, Ikoyi people will be very much on the list, and VGC people very much on this list, because if you are in that kind of area, babies may delay. They may delay because if you have one baby and there is no need for the baby to walk, whatever the baby needs comes to meet it where it is there. If the baby needs to do anything, all the baby wants to do to say carry me is to just cry small. The baby is not going to be in the mood to do anything. But usually by the 2nd year, whether it was born in Ikoyi or he was born in, I don't want to mention the other part of it, so that those who will not come and say that Beat Nigeria FM is doing something, they are not going to say anything. But if you are born in those areas and you know them, by the second year of life, the baby should have started walking. And so that we can at least use that as a yardstick. And baby should have been walking. By 2 years, baby should have been walking fine. And all these other controls will be associated. So apart from motor control, which is what I have just mentioned. There are what we call sensory controls too. The baby will begin to, voice control will come in. Baby will begin to, unless your baby, now, how you know that your baby cannot hear is that your baby will not speak beyond cry. Cry is the only thing that your baby will not understand. If your baby cannot hear, the baby cannot speak. And that is why if you take
it's the hearing that aids the speaking.
It is the hearing that programs the language on the language center in the brain on what to speak, so that you can give birth to a proper Yoruba boy, Yoruba father, Yoruba mother here in Nigeria today. Put that baby in an aeroplane, fly the baby to Japan today.
You start speaking Japanese.
By the time the baby is 5 years old, the baby will never be able to speak Yoruba. The language will be programmed fully into Japanese. The baby will speak Japanese as a first language. And that is why scientists found out that babies that are born in Europe, and when I say Europe, I mean the middle Europe, where they can cross from UK to France, from UK to Italy, from UK, their program, their language centers are programmed to be multilingual. So when they take to languages easily. In Nigeria, people who are born in Mami Market, in military barracks, in police barracks, the babies speak more languages than people who are born in traditional Ikoyi or traditional Bodija. Because why? Because that's the only language that they're speaking to you.
Yes.
But in Mami Market, somebody will speak Hausa to abuse you.
The broken English.
The broken English will come in. They will speak small Igbo to it. They will add one or two other minority tribes. All these things you will pick very quickly. And it's one of the, I'm not saying that we should all go and start giving birth in military vision cantonment and whatever. But I mean, this is what science has found. But languages. So baby will start with mama, 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 dada. I mean, those are the two things that people first say. So says that and gets reinforced. And then, of course, the mother will reinforce it most of the time. So mother will, dada, you point to your father, mama, she'll point to herself. So you start, and then you point to the baby and call the baby's name. So the baby knows that that name is my name. This will happen in normal development. If all these things are difficult, please come to the hospital. It is possible that the baby is deaf. If the baby is born deaf, baby will not be able to speak. So the earlier we correct the deafness, the earlier the baby can resume speech. And that's most important. Without language hearing, language speaking is absolutely, even if the baby, if I suspect that if you take the baby and it's possible that a colony of wolves raise a baby, the baby will understand, which is why I think that the Tarzan that they did when we were very young, the person who wrote the script and did it actually did a lot of research in this aspect of programming the language centers, because whatever the baby see is whatever the baby will do. Let me not end without saying that part of what we need to correct is something that we had brought here before. The first hand that the baby will use, usually, generally, most of the time, will be the left. The reason it is the left is that when your mother wants to give you something, the mother will hold it in her right hand and give it to the baby. The hand that is nearest when you face somebody, the hand that is mirror image of the right hand is the left hand. So the mother gives it with the right hand, baby collects with the left hand. So baby gets the mindset that this is the hand. It is after the baby now starts to grow up. So please, in some babies, they do not cross back to using right hand because they are left hand wired. Babies who are going to use their right hand, they will reverse back to their right hands when they are growing older. So please, do not beat up babies because they did not use right hand. Obama is a left-handed person.
Yeah.
So, and we all liked him. And I'm sure we all liked him. So, Babatunde Raji Fashola, former governor, is a left-handed person.
Mm.
And I'm sure we will list governors that have been performing in the history of state government in Nigeria. His name will be very high up there, if not among the very, 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 very top of them. So please, what I'm saying is that using right hand or left hand does not mean that you are deficient in any way. Rafael Nadal became number one tennis player in the world. He uses left.
Mm.
Baba Beji, Roger Federer, he uses right. The two of them are very good friends. But I mean, at one time or the other, the two of them have occupied. I mean, Nadal will always beat Federer on clay. It's a given. But in fact, Federer himself, he knows. But then when they go back to the other court, Federer will make noise, argue, fight, and then maybe one of these days he will win. But what I'm saying is that left hand, right hand, what the baby needs, lots of love, lots of encouragement, lots of exposure to a lot of things, so that the baby can develop in complete health, physical, socially, mentally, psychologically, across board. Do not let the baby be deficient while growing up. Do not forget the vaccination protocols, because there are some diseases, even while the baby is growing up, 1 year, 2 years, the brain of the baby will keep growing up until 2 years, or slightly after 2 years, when the last of the diastasis in the brain, on the skull, will fuse. That's when the baby's brain will no longer grow. At that time, the baby's nerve systems have been settled and all the connections have been made. It is now left for those connections now to be reinforced, to develop better. So from 2 years on, a baby that is going to be brilliant, the neural networks have been laid. In fact, almost all babies born, I tell you, have the capacity to be like Einstein.
So what now happens along the line?
Environment. The environment happens along the line. The environment is, you see, that's why you see people that they go into some things. You see somebody, you then ask yourself, if this guy has gone to academia, can you imagine what he will have done? Those are the people that even beyond their limiting environment, they were able to stamp their authority. They are able to define themselves in their environment. So so we have a lot of those people like that. They didn't go to school, but when you see what they had made, I mean, Bill Gates left school. I mean, in those days, it used to be something that everybody would say: the top 10 people in the world, the top richest men in the world, the top 4 that went to school are working for the top 6 that did not go to school, and that's how they were able to enter the first 10. We're not talking about people who did Yahoo Yahoo, or who did drug business and all that. I'm talking about people who actually sat down, looked, applied their intellect, and made a difference in what we are doing in the world. So expose your kids, let them go to good schools. Government may help us, because cerebral palsy is not curable. You can only manage it. It can then be managed for life. But
so there are centers for special needs.
Let them create those centers. Let them create those schools. Let them create. You see, you send a boy with cerebral palsy. Some people can have mild cerebral palsy, in which case they don't have any obvious physical deformity. It is in their brain that is not. So they may be labeled as low achievers. Some of them might be labeled as idiots. Some of them might actually be called imbeciles. You put those kind of kids in a classroom where some kids are just, before you say 2 plus 2, he's already thinking about 2 times 2.
They should be in their own center.
They should be in their own center. Government should make efforts, because we can still, you see, the society ultimately is measured by how they treat the least powerful amongst it.
The vulnerable, as they always say.
In fact, one of the greatest works done on anthropology and archaeology established that when humans became a civilization, the worst thing that they knew, that humans had become a civilization, a colony of people who look after themselves, they found out that they saw a skeleton of someone who had a fractured femur. And the fractured femur healed before the person died. Fractured femur takes upward of 6 months when you put them in a hospital. In those days, they would have no knowledge about how to heal a fractured femur. But what they knew was that this guy can no longer walk around. So they put him somewhere. And then some group of people would then take it upon themselves that while we are going about looking for what we are going to eat, let us remember this guy that is not able to walk. And they were able to feed him. They were able to keep him out of danger. They were able to keep him happy. They were able to do all those things for him until the bone healed. And that is humans. Before we became a country, before we became state, before we started fighting about whether you are black or yellow or green or blue, before we know whether you are Republican, whether you voted for Tinubu or for Obi or for, before all that, when we are just a bunch of humans running on the savannah plains, pursued by almost every other thing that looks bigger than us, that was when we took that first step to colonization, that we were able to help ourselves. So whoever is the governor, whoever, because your state is, I'm happy, and let me use the opportunity to say congratulations to a very good friend of mine, Dr. Jetumobi, who has just been confirmed as the Minister for Health in your state. Commissioner. I'm just foreseeing, I'm just looking, I'm looking into the seeds of time now, and I'm saying that that's, so I don't want to say congratulations to the governor for finding that kind of a person to pay, because I know her very well. She comes full package. I mean, it's 10 over 10 package for her. And I'm sure that she has a lot of plans that she's going to. And I believe that if across all these states we begin to make all these decisions and put round pegs and round holes, and allow the round pegs and round holes to function roundly,
right,
we will get there.
Certainly. Thank you, Doctor. Always informative having Doctor in the studio every Thursday on the Beat 97.9 FM. Thank you for joining us on the show as well. My name is Alon Tobias. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.